so the only protest I had was not meeting her at the airport. In a city bigger than she could have dreamed of, I let her find her own cab. I left an extra set of keys for her with Hal, my super, and stayed late at Luciano's, the Italian restaurant on the Upper West Side, where I work in the back as a bookkeeper. Nick, the owner, had taken me in like a misplaced kitten a couple of years ago, when I started lingering there every afternoon instead of going to the art studio. I still couldn't bear to create when all I wanted was to disappear. I was grateful for the job, for the bustle of the restaurant. It was a perfect way to get lost in plain sight. And wasn't that what New York was supposed to be good for? That night, once I had lingered so long that I had organized the invoices for the whole month and finished the payroll, I came out from my one-desk office and tucked myself behind a table near the kitchen for my staff meal. Usually, I take it home at 6 p.m., like clockwork. But that night, after I finished eating, I decided to help bus tables. At first, it was just water refills, but when the calls for check please began playing around me like background music, I started running those too. Some of the waitresses eyed me, though no one asked me what I was still doing there. I hadn't told them about Kei, and could not even begin to imagine how to do so. Instead, I smiled to deflect the occasional spark of concern. 9 o'clock passed, and so did 10. I can't say now if I was hanging on to the last untainted minutes of my life without Kei, or if I was simply preparing myself to face her. I had worked hard to leave my sister behind. I traveled 5,000 miles to find a place where no one would stare at my scars. People in New York saw so little of me that they didn't even notice my eyes, that the right one is dark brown, and the left tawny, almost hazel. It gave me an ersatz David Bowie look in this big city, but had just screamed hapahali in our little Hawaiian town. Kei and I were two of the few privileged and damned creatures of mixed race in that watery backwater place. Not the cosmopolitan girls with the pale skin, rounded eyes, the dark chocolate hair. They were more beautiful than any one race alone. No, we were clearly a mistake. Japanese on one side, Caucasian on the other. We were the daughters of Mia Swanson, the town's crazy lady, who had breakdowns in public and talked to ghosts. Hana, the good girl, Kei, the rebel. We were opposites, but equally haunted, though by what, we didn't know. But there are only so many hours in a day that can be wasted, and it was close to midnight when I finally left the restaurant. I often liked to walk home in the early evening, especially as the days got longer, but I've always been afraid of the dark, more so now than ever. So I took the bus that night, my brain so stuck on Kei that I barely noticed the time. Was she here to beg forgiveness all these years later? What could she possibly have to tell me, now that everyone we had loved was dead? And if I couldn't bear her voice on the phone, how would I stand having her invade my apartment? We had once been inseparable, and now, part of me still hoped that I might not find her when I arrived. Okay, if only she had decided not to come. It wasn't until I stuck my key into the door of my apartment and heard the top deadbolt snap closed instead of open that I had to admit to myself for certain that Kei was really here. I could picture her then, fumbling with the many keys Hal had handed her, and then letting the door slam behind her once she was inside. She wouldn't bother to relock it. The house we grew up in didn't even have a key. Doors were like coats. We needed them some nights and on a couple of chilly days, but most of the time we left them hanging out of sight. In Hawaii, screen doors, those banging, bouncing, fraying things, were all that we needed to keep the flies out and let the breeze in. But we weren't children anymore. "Kei," I called, bolting the door behind me. "You left the door open." I winced even before the words left my mouth. I should have started with something nicer. "I'm home," I should have said, though I could already feel what my place must look like to my sister.